Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel as always.
What's up, Coach?
Well, this week's intro is a little different.
Different, yeah.
I made it on time and everything.
At least I know how this one works.
I had to laugh a little bit on the inside when I showed up, and you were talking about some people don't make the start time, and I was like, "This is directly at me, isn't it?"
It wasn't, but it was timely. It was timely.
So I
As
apologize
a
to all
host,
you,
I still got it. I can still do the segue.
yeah, all of you listeners out there that just tune in for my voice. I'm sorry you had to miss it for most of last week. I'm sure you're here for Joe's education anyway, so we're good.
Yeah.
This week has been a pretty good one. I'm sure that you guys have been snowed in too, right? Because you're the north. So
No, not here. We had
does the ocean keep y'all warm? Isn't the Atlantic like cold?
No, it's not cold here. It's Virginia. DC had here we had, I don't know, an inch and a half, which I think was an inch and a half, which was enough to because this is not the north, that was enough to shut down schools for like 2 days. At least they got a 2-hour delay. There was like a line, there was a strip that went directly through Richmond, and so like my friends who teach at the school that I used to work for, and actually the school that I work for now, I think they might have gotten a 2-hour delay, but I have other friends who are like one county south of that where I used to work, and they got nothing. They were just furious. And then where I live, which is north of Richmond, I live 3 miles from not even 3 miles. I live, I don't know, a half a mile from the Richmond city line. And we got some decent snow. I mean, an inch or two, but it was cool. My son got to see it and was like, "Oh, it's pretty cool," and then got distracted by something else. But then this weekend, I was sick. I got it was Monday was Martin Luther King Day, and so my nanny had off, and my wife is a nurse, and so it was daddy daycare. And then Tuesday, she called in sick, and so it was daddy daycare again. And then about midway through the day, I got sick for the second time in a month, which I never get sick. So it was, thankfully she was feeling better by Wednesday, and because I don't know how Wednesday was rough. So Saturday, and it's lingering. If you can probably still hear my voice, hopefully I'll be able to hit the mute button before I cough. Saturday, my son went with my wife for Grammy's birthday, my wife's mom, up in Maryland, Gaithersburg. And they got like 8 inches.
Nice.
No, so it's only 100 miles north, maybe 120 miles north. But they were, son got to go up and play in some big kid snow for the first time. So that was cool. So yeah, we didn't get it. We got a dusting and we had a little flurry here and there, but it's been cold. It's been real cold. Today it warmed up a little bit with some rain. I'm ready for the cold to get out of here. It's supposed to be a little better this weekend.
Yeah, we kind of get everything you do like 3 days ahead of time. So when we drove back from AFCA, it's been like 2 weeks now, I guess. I had to beat the ice storm home. In fact, I went a different route home through Arkansas instead of Missouri, but
I've never been to
for
Arkansas
some reason because it was icing up there, and so I got home and it snowed us in. Got to miss some school, and then I jumped over to Kenny Simpson's Gun Tea Clinic at Batesville this past weekend, and same thing. I came home and got iced in, so freezing rain. So it's been a while. I think we've missed like 5 days. Or they're all virtual, so we haven't missed any school, which I guess is lucky enough. But we've missed some days. But same thing. We got the crud. I think AFCA sent me home with something, and we've all just been sick ever since. So thank you to all college coaches.
I mean, everybody I know has gotten it. So people I haven't seen have gotten it. My dad got it. And I haven't seen him. So he's several states away. So yeah, it's going around.
I know last week y'all talked a lot about clinic season and how to get the best out of it, and the networking can never be oversold because we obviously got to talk to people at AFCA, and then I got to go over to this other clinic and met with a couple coaches who some of them use Joe, they use your stuff. They're JDFB members. Some just listen to podcasts. Some are Kenny's guys, but man, you just build those relationships. And I told you it's kind of funny. Like I'm just sitting there at a table and the guy was like, "Oh, I know you applied for this head job," and I'm like, how do you know that I applied for a head coaching job? So, the networking can never be undersold. It's pretty neat, just no matter where you're going. So I hope that was a part of last week's episode.
Yes,
Um,
yes, absolutely.
this
Uh,
week we're going to talk a little bit of power football. Thought we'd get back into the X's and O's. I feel like we're a little over halfway done with the season, and we've not really had an X's and O's episode. So that was a great time to jump back into there. So we're going to talk a little bit of power football tonight and different variations or tags or what you might need to change to just make your team more successful at running power. So before we do that, do you want to pay the bills here, sir?
yeah, I mean, we're gonna be talking power. So if you are interested in running power, you want to know more about the play, you want to run it, make it the centerpiece of your system, or however you decide to go about it. The pistol power offense is centered around power to an extent. It can be, it doesn't have to be. Sometimes, some years it's our best play, some years it isn't, as we talk about. We run gap scheme and zone scheme in the pistol power offense system. Power is just probably my favorite play. It's not always our best play. So if you want to learn more about the details of power, tonight we're going to talk about down, down, kick out, wrap, and that's kind of the basics of power. But if you want the details of the footwork and the steps and the calls, and then we have tons of game film of power being run on the field, of the variations that we'll talk about, and you really want to get deep into that play and then the offense around it. And it doesn't have to be from pistol. As I said, some years we're a heavy pistol team, some years we're heavy under center, some years we're heavy gun. I more and more think that I will always start under center. I'm more and more getting towards that point in my life. But we end up being just straight gun spread to 10 personnel. But it's all in the pistol power offense system, which is available only as part of JDFB premium coaching systems. And you can get trial access right now for $1 to check it out, see everything that's in there. And you're going to get access to JDFB. You're going to get access to the pistol power offense system. You're going to get access to the 4 defensive systems that are in there: 4-2-5, 4-3, 33 stack, 3-4. You're also going to get access to the Chalkboard forum, to the Chalk Talk Q&A archives. We just got tons and tons more stuff coming in JDFB. It's different. It's a big package, and there's a lot there. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn from myself and other coaches that are involved. So check it out for $1 by going to join.joedanielfootball.com.
Perfect. Also, want to remind you guys about adaptable physical therapy. That's my wife and I's clinic. It's up here in Grove, Oklahoma. So if you're up in the northeast part of Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, even you southwest Missouri folk, feel free to come on over to Grove and let Dr. Chamberlain hook you up. She can pretty much fix all that ails you. I think I told the story last time I was on. Apparently, it's been like a month ago about my grandfather who was very, very close to death, and we had to fight like crazy to get him back in physical therapy because of all the dumb rules with Medicare, or Medicaid, or whichever one he's on. But they finally did, and I mean, it brought him back like almost all the way. He's like, it's like going to sit and talk to my grandfather again. Movement truly is medicine, and my wife is one of the best around at doing it. She's gonna hook you up with PT 2.0. Just what that means to you is you're gonna get one-on-one care with her. She's not gonna double book. She's not gonna bounce patient to patient. It's you and her, and she's gonna give you the work you need. Very fitness forward approach. She's gonna do correct dosing and intensity. She is a firm believer in if what you're doing for therapy doesn't push past what you do in everyday life, it's not therapy. It's someone just taking money from you. So when you show up, you are going to get physical therapy, and you're going to go home feeling better. I love hearing all of her success stories. The people shooting emails, because we obviously can both, check emails with both being business owner, and or even the Google reviews and stuff has started showing up. Just people absolutely love her. So jump over to Adaptable Physical Therapy and check out Dr. Samantha Chamberlain. Athletic Speed Movement is the last one we'll hit before we move on. That's our website where we're taking Del Basquet's 45 years of experience, almost 46. We're pushing into 2024 now, so 45 years plus of speed and movement training, from being the very first guy in the NFL that's coaching that up, taking a rookie running back and making him all pro. And then, he spread out and went to a ton of D1 schools. I love watching the playoffs right now in NCAA because it's every logo is one that Dell's worked with. So, I doubt that just because he hasn't been there in a while, I doubt they're using his stuff at that school right now. Coaching scheme or coaches have changed and whatnot, but I have no doubt that he set the roots there for those teams to excel into the future with all their training. You can go to the website and jump on there today and check out Dell's 3 core principles of speed. And he's going to teach you some good things on that episode. And just shoot us your email there, and then man, jump on as soon as you can and get your kids training. It's the time now. Email went out this week about the kids you have right now are probably the ones that need you the most anyway. So start your training program now. It's more than just hitting the weight room, right? You need to get the speed, you need to get the agility, and that's what this athletic speed movement program is going to get you. Also, when you sign up, you're going to get a monthly queue of things coming to you. One's a Q&A with Dell. So we're going to have a Zoom type call once a month with Joe, myself, and Dell, or some variation of that 3, but Dell will always be there. So you can come and ask the man himself. You have questions about installing the program. Even if you're on the fence about comparing programs, man, I'm telling you, it's the best that's around, and he's going to be able to prove it to you. You're also going to get an article from Dell written from him, and that's the magic, right? That's where Dell just sits down and in all of his ridiculous genius about speed and athletic movement, he's going to put it in paper and put it in words, and he's going to publish it for you to read and not for anyone else. He's not sending it out to the local magazine. It's coming to you guys as subscribers. And then last is a master class with Dell. Once again, that's kind of a Zoom type call. We're going to sit down and Joe and I will just poke and prod Dell and get all of his expertise on whatever the topic is for that month. So jump in now. I mean, it's the perfect time to get into athleticspeedmovement.com. Bills paid. Question 1. We're talking about power. So just for those who don't know, which I'm learning more and more of, we discussed a little bit on, before we hit record, that there are a lot of coaches who don't know some base stuff in football, and it always surprises me. So what is base power?
Power is, we used to joke that, we had a joke that, somebody would explain power as down, down, kick out, and wrap, and talk about it like it's some sort of special thing. That's power. That is the base power play, is the front side of the offensive line blocks down, which in our terminology, which I realize is not everybody's terminology, a down block means to block down. It would technically be probably a gap down rule in the wing T world. You block the man that is in your gap, in your inside gap. If there's nobody in your inside gap, then you block the man that is the next man down, over top of the next man down. So if I'm the tackle, I'm going to look for somebody in B gap. If there's nobody in B gap, then I'm going to look to down block the man that is in over top of the guard. So I'll down to him. If there's nobody down over top of him, then we probably have a different call. We probably have a combo call, in which case if there's nobody over top of him and there's nobody in the gap, I'm probably comboing with the tight end if we have one. If we don't have one, then I'm just going to go to linebacker. So it depends on the call. So we'll talk about all the basics of it. But so my front side is going to, the basic, the old school way of saying it is down, down, kick out, and wrap. Somebody is going to kick out the end man on the line of scrimmage, the man that's basically over top of the tight end or over the tight end area or outside of the tackle. Obviously, if you don't have a tight end, then you're blocking them. You're kicking out the guy that's outside of the tackle. I do not like running power without a tight end very much because I have to kick out a guy that's in a 4-tech. Some
Right.
people don't do that, and it just, to me, is leaving the play to chance. But and I don't have a good angle for it. I have a good angle for the counter, but not for the power. So we're going to kick out the guy that's in the tight end area. We're going to down block everybody inside of that, and we're going to pull the backside guard, and he is going to wrap to the front side linebacker. So he is going to go outside of the last down blocker, which is tackle or tight end usually, and he is going to go inside of the kick out block, and he is going to block the backside number of the front side linebacker. We can get all the detail of it. That's the very, very simplified. We'll go a little bit in depth in this episode, but when you take this play and you start, that's the, whatever 30,000 foot level, down, kick out, wrap to the front side linebacker with the backside guard. It's a really simplified way of looking at it. And when you start to go into the detail and the nuance and the way that I learned it from Bill Mountjoy, and have made some of my own adjustments on it, but still believe that Bill's teaching is the way, the best way to run the power. Then there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it, but that's the basics of power. And you're going to hand it off. Usually, you're going to hand it off to a running back, or there's a million different things we can do, but usually you're handing it off. Our base 24 call is power right to the two back, which is the running back behind the quarterback, tailback, whatever you want to call it.
So when I was taught power originally, that backside guard was pulling to kick, and he did the kicking, and we didn't really learn it with a wrap. We kind of went front side with a tight end. We would go gap down backer across the front. Guard and tackle play side, we're working to get to the backside linebacker. Tight ends working to the front side linebacker. We only went 5-5 that year, so maybe that wasn't the right way. Maybe that was some convoluted way that had been dreamed up in a college somewhere. I don't know. So I have appreciated as I've gotten back into it, kind of learning how other people do it. Because, I mean, you're kicking out with an H-back or, right? I mean, there's variations there, but
Sure.
and then the way that I see some people draw it up is basically just counter, which counter is power to, I mean, they're kind of the same play. We just usually call it, power is one kick or one puller, and counter ends up with two somehow usually. But so base power, kicking out with somebody closer, and then wrapping with a guard. Otherwise, you end up just running counter, right?
Well, see, everybody has their own words and their own terminology. They're all variations on power. Exactly right. So a GT counter, where I pull the guard and the tackle, the front side is the same as power. The back side is pull and kick with the guard and wrap with the tackle. And then the counter aspect comes in that one of my backs is, theoretically one of my backs is faking and then kicking out that backside end, or I can read him, which has become more popular and is a really hard play to defend when it's run well. I call that counter. I call it GT counter. Counter to me is our power scheme, but usually run away from the tight end. And the counter aspect for us, the backfield action looks just like power. The counter aspect for us is that power is run to the H-back. The H-back kicks out, and the backside guard wraps. The H-back is lined up on that side. And when we run counter, we usually will motion the H-back when we run power for that shiny object. And if you start sliding with the H-back, then we kick out with the guard and wrap the H-back. And we have the angle for that. So we can kick out, a four tech if we need to, a head up over the tackle. And that's our counter play. So that's our counter to the power, and it's based more on the formation and the motion creating the counter action than the backfield action. What I learned as traditional GT counter was from an I formation, and the fullback would go and kick out the end, and the tailback would counter step and then come across. We counter step on everything, and where our power and our counter have the same backfield action, what that does is we use the same counter look, the backfield look, on our zone. And in our zone, So everything complements each other. You can't pull pieces from one system and pieces from another system and just expect them all to necessarily complement each other.
Right.
Our zone play, or outside zone especially, which I love, is going to drop step to get their midline pointed at the hip of the tight end. So when I run power, well, let's say I run counter. When I run counter, I drop step pointed at the tight end, and then I counter step back over and run the counter play. And so what the backfield is seeing in the quarterback reverse pivots, and so what the linebackers are seeing every time you run power or counter is the same footwork, the same initial first step that they see on outside zone, and a very similar first step to inside zone. Um, so again, everybody's setup is different. I know that that's not the way that some people do it. And there's also what we call a G power, where the front side guard kicks out and the back wraps to the front side linebacker leads usually. There's also buck sweep, which is the same principle. The front side guard kicks out and the back side guard wraps, and you use a fullback to fill. In the base buck sweep, in the base buck, the fullback comes through. So
I love seeing the social media. Obviously, there's some systems out there running buck sweep out of gun to Kenny's gun tee. There's a lot of people out there in pistols and all that stuff, and they're calling it buck sweep, but it is just G power because there's no buck, there's no fullback bucking
right,
in
there's
the
no fullback
line, and
buck, right?
I love when people get so upset about like you're missing the buck part. Like,
Sure.
yeah, you're right, but it's
It's
just
kind of
terminology, man.
transcended. I mean, honestly, way more people are familiar with the buck sweep term than the understanding that the buck is the trap part of it, the
Right,
dive part of it. So it's just one of those that the terminology, like we talked about this a little bit in one of our AFCA episodes. Um, the coaches who are really, you can tell pretty quickly a lot of times who the coaches that really know their stuff are, and or a coach who doesn't know that outside of their own little world and what they've learned. A coach who doesn't have a ton of experience. This isn't a bad thing. It's just you can tell very quickly once you've experienced all of this, and you've experienced it
right,
all very quickly because of being on these podcasts.
right,
Um, when you hear somebody use terminology that is by no means universal, but use it as if it is universal, um, you realize that that person has kind of been coaching in a bubble and doesn't know that there's this great big world of other terminology out there. Um, when we try to when we talk and we communicate, we try to communicate in multiple different, like I'm not going to come on here and be like, today's episode is all about 24-25.
right.
Like nobody would understand that except for the
It would
people
make
who are
sense.
actually in the pistol power offense system. It wouldn't make any sense. So, because you might think that, oh well, it's the two back going through the four hole, and it's not. So it's not, none of it's not universal. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of different variations on, and we say variations on power that we're going to talk about. We're talking about the same blocking with different actions. But there are a lot of things that are down, down, kick out, wrap to the linebacker.
Yeah.
There's lots and lots of them.
So this is a great place to segue right into that. So why do we need multiple variations or tags for power?
Well, we don't need them. I mean, that's, let's start there. You don't. Um, we talk about in our in JDFP coaching systems, we have a quick start guide called the Roadmap to Victory, and it is centered around the 7 right now. I suppose it could expand in the future, but 7 right now of the most important principles, lessons, really beyond the X's and O's, things that you need if you're going to be a JDFB coach and get the most out of it. These are the ones that you need to start with, and then everything else will build around it. And one of those is on, how many plays you need an offensive playbook. And we used to always say, years ago, I used to get that question all the time. I go, it depends. That was the patent answer. It depends. It just depends. And then you could go into a whole explanation. And finally, it was like, all right, it depends isn't a good enough answer. Um, and this went with the offensive play caller system, which is opening up for enrollment in February. So towards the end of this month, as this comes out, the offensive play caller system builds on the idea that you are as the offensive play caller, you are probing for weaknesses in the defense and attacking those weaknesses when you find them, and then paying attention to how the defense adjusts to close that weakness because it will open up another weakness. And a lot of times we miss that. A lot of times we find a weakness and we run a play and we run it once, we run it twice, we run it 3 times. The third time they finally stop it. Maybe you run it a fourth time just to confirm that they have, in fact, made an adjustment. And then you go to something completely different. You go off somewhere else. Kenny and I have a very similar view of the script, in that the script is about formations. And the script is not, I'm not going to run these 12 plays in a row, blah, 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 blah. It's probing. It's, if I find something that works, I'm going to hammer it. And when you stop it, I'm paying attention to how did you stop it? Because in order to stop it, you had to weaken yourself somewhere else.
Right.
And so then I'm going to go to that play. And if I can just get you going back and forth from one to the other and, run it 3 times, the third time you stop me, all right, I'll go run the other one, run that 3 times. And all right, I'll vary it up. I'll go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And I'll stay on that formation all night. And every third play pops. I get 2 yards, 3 yards, 8 yards. And then you change the defense and I get 3 yards, 4 yards, 10 yards. I'm fine with that. No problem. As long as every third play is getting a big chunk, let's go. So when we looked at the how many plays do you need with that in mind, it becomes pretty obvious. You need enough plays to attack all the weaknesses. And, we can talk about how to attack the weakness of a press corner, how to attack the weakness of a corner that's too far off, how to attack a cover 3, how to attack a cover 4 spot drop, how to attack a quarters, how to attack a man. We can get into all of that. We can also get into how to attack weaker players. We can also, how do I set up matchups, all that kind of stuff. But where we start, we developed a very, very simple playbook that a lot of our youth coaches are using with high rates of success. And that very simple playbook is centered around power. And it may be centered around only running power one direction, because I don't need to run it both directions. And that playbook looks like: get great at power. I'll just give you the real simple short version of it, because there's a lot to it and I don't give it all away for free. Get great at power, which is an off tackle run play. And there's 4 run plays. There's 4 areas for run plays. There's inside, A gap, B gap, off tackle, outside, toss, and counter. Something that looks like it's going one direction and goes the other direction. Now, it can look like it's going outside, but it goes up the middle. It can look like it's going off tackle this way, but goes off tackle that way. So there's multiple, and it can do the opposite too. It can look like it's going up the middle, but it goes outside. Not as common, but that's, that usually you threaten the outside and then go up the middle. By that logic, power read, by the way, is a counterplay. If you actually run the sweep, if you run the jet sweep. In order to build your playbook, you go power. When you get great at power, you can run it against any, if they're just flat out like dudes all over the field, that's a different deal. But if you just focus on getting great at power, then any average defense, base defense, you can run power against it, because you're just that good at that play. You can get 4 yards. If you can get 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards is first down, right? It's a good play. 4 yards, 4 yards, or 4 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards. First down. Great. So then what you look at is when they finally stopped your power play, how did they stop it? Well, if the backside linebacker came scraping over, you run the counter because, it's going opposite him. If the strong safety came down and now he's aligned 1 by 1 or 3 by 1 and he's tightened down and he's jumping into the off tackle area to stop your power, then you run toss because the force player is out of position. If they widen the tackles and you've got 2 open A gaps because they want to take away power and counter, let's say, or they've widened out, or maybe they just widened their, whatever they did, then you run wedge. Wedge is a really simple play, right? And if they get the corner involved, then you run power pass and you throw over top of him for a touchdown, and now you start it all over on the next drive. And so in that way, I don't need any variation. I mean, the only variation of the power that I need is the counter in that scheme. And so when we talk about why do you need variations, in theory, that right there is enough. Now the reality is that eventually as you level up and everything, but at the base, you'll probably need more. But at the base core, you don't need anything other than to be able to attack inside, off tackle, outside, and counter, and be able to do them all. Be able to do one of them great, and power just happens to be the one that we do really great. I think the power. The beauty of it is that the toss doesn't have a lot of rules. The wedge doesn't have a lot of rules. And so you just spend all your time working on the 3 rules that there are with the power play and get so good at those that you can run it against anything. One of the things that we didn't mention in the way that we run power, and the reason we run power with the tight end, is that with the exception of a bear front, a jam front, a bear front, a 3-0-3 look, with the exception of that, we get a double team at the point of attack every single time we run it. And so that's why, I don't think you need a lot more. Now, where we run into problems is if you don't have, we've always been able to run power pretty well, but we've had years where we didn't have a back who could do anything with the hole we create, right? He's going to get 4 yards and he's going to get 4 yards, period. And it's like, now we have to have other ways to do it. Now we have to have, I don't have a good toss kid. I don't have a wedge. I don't know how you don't have a guy that can run wedge, but now you got to figure out some different ways and get creative and different looks. Maybe your best athlete's at quarterback and you want him to carry the ball. So where it comes in that you need those variations is more in how do I get the ball into the hands of different guys or create different looks rather than from an X's and O's standpoint needing those plays.
So I'd say one reason why I think you do need some variations, and it's basically this new 3-4/5-2 front that everybody's running, without allowing the defense to rip a play out of your playbook. If I'm going to pull the backside guard, and that guy's sitting out there in a 3 or a 4-eye and slanting into that gap, or a 5 and slanting inside, where I'm leaving, it becomes a place where I have a guard and tackle that have got a defensive end on them somewhere in that area, and then possibility of a blitzing outside linebacker. So now I've got 2-on-2, and I'm leaving with one of them. So I'm leaving one guy to defend or to block 2.
Who are we leaving one to block?
The tackle to block the defensive end because he has to gap hinge, and then if he gets a blitz by that outside backer as well,
our center will get your 3 or 4.
Say again.
Our center will get your 3 or 4-eye.
Right, so you can block back with the center. But if he has a 0 on him, or that guy's moving and slants into his backside A gap.
Absolute biggest. Here, I'll get pissed off at you right now. The biggest mistake that you guys are making with your power is that center blocking a 0 nose. Stop blocking a 0 nose with the center. Stop blocking a zero nose with the center. Get a center who blocks back, who down blocks like a man, who puts his foot down, gets flat back, and sprints down the line of scrimmage. And he can pick off a 3, he can pick off a 4-eye, he can pick off a 4. You get that guy, you can run power against anybody. Stop blocking the zero tech nose with the center. It is, I don't care who does it. It is wrong and it is killing your play. There's my rant.
I like it. And you know, I mean, there's
I can sit here and I can be like, there's other ways to do it. No, I watch it every single week. I have coaches who have run our system and they just like, they just won't do it, or their head coach won't let them, or whatever it is. And I've had multiple because this is the way or whatever. And I sit there and I show them play after play after play after play. Look, this is killing you. You're getting A gap, B gap run through, exactly what you're talking about. Why am I going to base the nose? The guard is going to come down and hit him in the side of the head. He doesn't have to make a great block on him. He's hit him in the side. The guard is down blocking. This is killing your power play, and this is why you need to be in JDFB premium coaching systems if you guys are going to run power, because you are not running the play effectively enough.
so
If you're basing a 5 technique, all these things, they don't work.
so with a 3 front,
Mhm.
if a nose slants weak,
Yep.
the center's trying to get back to a 4-eye, and the
Yeah.
nose goes with him.
We got massive humanity.
And now I still have 3 defenders coming, a nose, a defensive end, and an outside backer to a center and a tackle because the guard is pulled to wrap.
My guard came down too. My
So
guard down blocked your nose.
got you.
My guard down
So
blocks your
that's
nose.
just variations I've seen is, and it's almost like, so I've been getting into Cody Alexander's defensive stuff, and he talks about a wrap, right? A wrap versus a kick. And some people are almost like it's its own play. Like instead of power, and once again, it goes back to how I learned power. Guard kicks. Now I'm learning guard wraps. But a lot of people are blocking out with the front side because of these 3-4s. Now I've got a 5 and a 9 out there. So we double kick out, down block with the guard. That'd be tackle tight end, kicking out. Down block with the guard in the center. And then that guard that's wrapping, he gets up for the play side linebacker. So you get the same look. It's
That's
just
a one back power. It's a whole different play.
different
Whole different play.
different angles.
Yeah, what you've done there is you've used one of the linemen as the kick out. So you've lost the double team at the point of attack.
Yes.
Which is you've lost one of the biggest advantages of the play. There is not a base block in our scheme, in this scheme, right? And we go through all the rules and everything, and it's not going to matter because it's not going to, but in our scheme, you give us a traditional 40 front, a 3 tech, and a 6 or a 7 or a 9, or 6 or a 7 or a 9, doesn't matter really. We're going to combo the 3 tech, and we're not coming off that combo unless somebody comes in the front side A gap. I don't play that game. We're going to win that block. If I have the guard uncovered and the tackle covered, so a traditional 4-0-4 or a 4-eye, it doesn't matter to us. The tackle is covered. Then we're going to combo the tight end and the tackle on the 4-eye or the 4. We're going to have a double team at the point of attack, and we're going to down everybody from the combo back down blocks. Yeah. The only time that doesn't happen is if you give us the 3-0-3 look. Now the guard and the center are covered. Well, now we down block everybody. Well, we down block you in the side of the hip. So it doesn't matter how big and bad you are. Everybody sucks when they get hit in the side of the hip. Right? I mean, it's flat back sprint. And so no matter what, we are always in the advantage. We are always in the advantage. There are a couple fronts that you can do that, load up the C gap. But again, now you've opened up something else. And now you've opened up one of those other plays. Maybe you've opened up toss. Maybe you've opened up outside zone. Maybe you've opened up, whatever, inside run. But our power play, the way that Bill Mountjoy teaches power, and I don't do Bill doesn't love everything that I do. He doesn't love everything that I do. But I will tell you right now, that is the way. And there's a few goofballs who met Bill online and didn't like him, and so they don't like the way he runs power. Well, that's stupid. It's not about your personality. I don't give a crap. There's a lot of people I don't like. You know, I still learn from 'em. I like Bill. Um,
Right.
I know him as a person, so I didn't meet him online. Maybe that's why. Um, but I'll and if you want to find somebody who's more dogmatic about it than me, it's Bill by 10,000 times, and he's seen 10,000 more teams do it. So that's where it comes from. We're always at an advantage. We're always at an advantage in display.
Yeah. So, have you ever done any variations with who the puller is to handle these? I know you're saying you always choke back with the center.
Well, I mean, we do our variations. The key with our variations, they're not power anymore. The play is no longer power. So, can you
Right.
do a one back power? Sure. It's not power. It's not, and I'm not gatekeeping power. What I'm saying is it's not what we're running.
Right.
Can I do that? Absolutely. Have I done it? No, I don't like one back power. I don't like the it essentially becomes an ISO play for me. I mean, to me. And I don't want that play. So I don't like one back power. When I first started, by the way, it's funny because you talk about Cody Alexander talking about this play that people are doing now. When I first started coaching, and maybe not when I first started, maybe 5 years in, one back power was all the rage. That was 15 years ago. So I guess maybe it's coming back around. We got time now. Like,
The cycle goes on.
yeah, the cycle comes back around. Um, so I don't know. Like nobody runs. I don't ever see it, and I don't think it's. I don't think it's a great play. It's a play, like schematically, it's a play. I'll say that. It's not like a terrible play or anything. Schematically, it's relatively sound, but there are better plays to me. That's not one that I've ever used. Obviously, counter is a variation where we kick out with the guard and wrap with the backer or with the H back. And by the way, we use an H back and not a fullback. We line him up in a sniffer position, usually between guard tackle, depending on where he needs to go. But we teach him to align to perform. About as deep as if you think about put your hand out and you can touch the guard's butt or whatever. That's about how deep he is. So he can kick out. And that is because we went back, Bill was very adamant about this when I first learned it. The angle is not as good from the I fullback. And a lot of people, traditional power from an I formation. And the angle is not as good. It's just not. And the reason that we run counter to a um, to a surface with no tight end is that we don't base block anything. So if you give us a four tech, the only base block I have to do is on a 4-eye with the tackle, then without a tight end on counter. That's the only base block that I think we really have to do, and and we don't like that. We rather run power to the 4-eye on the other side. But if it's a 4, if it's a head up, we're going to rip inside with the tackle to go to backside linebacker and avoid contact with him. And that guard now coming as a puller has a much better angle to kick him out than even the H-back does because he's on the line of scrimmage and you get underneath him. So, those are the thing that's the first variation, I guess, where we change the puller. Yeah, you can do a lot. I mean, I mean, the kick out, um, not so much. We do one where on the goal line, we don't want to have the puller. Right? When we get down in those heavy areas, we don't want to have the puller. And so the first time the original way that I did that was I would get into a power I formation and I would kick out with the offset back and the fullback would be the wrapper and everyone else was running power rule was essentially downing it on the goal line because we're getting that 6-2 front. So we're usually not getting the combo. We could get the combo. We can combo it depending on the look we get, but a lot of times it's just a down because the goal line, everybody's up. We can't afford to get into a combo and come off to a linebacker when everybody's standing within a yard.
Right.
I wanted to be able to run the play that way. What we ended up doing was we would actually one of my favorite shifts. We line up an empty, and then we shift to where the tight end and the tight end H back and the R come back in, and then we run it with the tight end and the H back, and we would tag that either HY or YH, whoever was first is the kick out. And they're both in that sniffer position. So they're both in that, guard tackle gap. And then you've got the quarterback either under center or pistol, and you got the R behind him. And we would kick out left or kick out right. And we started doing it actually from gun. After a while, we would go from gun doing that. The angle was not as good for the power, but we would do it with a Q counter where he would fake that, and then we would kick out. So we would go YH 15, or 15 YH, which would be the counter play, or we would go 25 HY, 24 HY or 15 YH. 24 is power to the right, 15 is quarterback to the left. So, that's a variation that we had where we got a different guy pulling too.
So, kind of the last variation you mentioned earlier is the read play. And I've seen it done different ways. Most of them we're just blocking power up front, right?
Yes.
You essentially, the guard wraps, you don't have a kick
Yeah.
player because you're going to read that defensive end. If he reads the down block and goes down the line, I'm going to hand it off to the jet, or I've seen it now ran with the back, right? Because it's a
Yep.
gun,
Mhm.
sidecar gun, and so I'm going to hand it off to the back. And then if he
Has
plays
has to be run from gun because you have to be in a position to read it,
right, if he is going to play the running back or the jet, whichever one you're reading or faking, then you pull it and you just hit right behind him because the front side linebacker is already taken up with the guard. So, why would you go to that? Why would you go to that variation instead of just running power?
Yep.
Like, is there any
And we actually have a different variation that we can talk about after this of power read too that we can touch on. It's been very good for some of our teams. Power read and the one where you don't pull the guard, by the way, is called inverted veer. But same concept. The backfield action is the same. You're just basically veer blocking and reading that instead of the power blocking. We run that play and we just tag it as read. We'll call 14 read. 14 means the quarterback is he's not necessarily the primary ball handler, but he's the one means he's the guy doing the reading. And he's the guy running the primary path, which is the power path. And so the quarterback, whether we use jet motion or we use an offset back in gun, the quarterback's going to read that in. And exactly what you said, all the other rules are in place. The only difference is we very, very rarely ever run that with a tight end. That's usually from a gun, and it works because I don't have to kick that guy out. Again, remember the problem was I don't have a good angle to kick out a 4-tech or a 5-tech, so I need a tight end to make a better angle. Well, problem solved. I'm not going to kick him out. The best thing in the world for me is he goes crashing down inside or he goes looping outside. He makes it a very, very clean read for me. So one of the big things is if you want to run power from gun, from 10 personnel, and again, in our case, I love running power. I love getting a tight end. I love getting an H-back. But if I've got a team like the team that we had last year, has some good receivers, we have some good players to play in space. We have a quarterback who's got lethal legs, but we still want to have the combo on a 3-tech, let's say. The power is a great play call for us. And when we call power read, and you watch the vast majority of power read, the thing about it is, I think a lot of people miss this on the power read, this version of power read. The defensive end is not the guy responsible for tackling a sweep. He shouldn't be.
No.
Right?
No.
So in theory, it's not a direct one-to-one kind of exchange. It's not like when the defensive end, who is the C-gap player, comes crashing down on the dive on a split back veer, and now nobody is playing the C-gap. that's a 1-to-1 exchange. The C gap players should not be defending the jet sweep. Who's defending the jet sweep? The force defender, who's the strong safety, or weak safety, or whatever it is. But the overhang. Let's just say it's a overhang safety. And I'm depending on him if I give the sweep, because and the only reason I give the sweep is that end freezes and square, surf, whatever, plays it and sits there and stares at my quarterback. That's when I give it. When I give it, I am praying to whatever I pray to, that my slot receiver out there is going to sustain the block on that glorified linebacker long enough for me to get outside of him or whatever. So I don't want to give that, because my ideal world is not running behind my slot receiver.
No.
Remember, my ideal world is running behind my combo of offensive linemen. And so, and my guard wrapping to the H-back. So what I really want, what Power Read really is hoping that you do, is that defensive end goes jumping outside doing something he really shouldn't be doing, but that it turns out a lot of high school kids do. And he jumps out at that shiny jet sweep, and he jumps out there and he goes just enough that I can run inside of him, scrape paint with the combo, and follow right behind that guard, who hopefully gets the front side linebacker also overplaying that thing, and the back pulling guard picks off his inside number, kicks him out, and we cut inside of him, and we run where there is no free safety because he's coming downhill, and the band plays.
Yeah. It seems like Power Read, there's almost no wrong read, because I've seen it ran with a tight end recently. I started breaking down some film, and they did that because they're getting a 3 front. So what do you do with all these extra linebackers? Well, you add a tight end. Now he has to come down to a 9. Now he's the read guy, and guess what? He was force. Probably shouldn't have been. Probably should have been the guy behind him. But that guy's worried about your tight end running vertical on him. So he gets a down block. He sets too long. Don't go till you know. And now we're just going to read the what's now a 9 tech your outside backer and give a give or a keep read, right?
Yep.
Or they truly play it like power. They run down the heel line of a down block. They wrong arm a pulling guard. And now I've got a jet sweep taking everybody way out wide, and my quarterback can pull it and keep it, and he's still running off tackle now. Yes, a play side linebacker can be running.
Play side linebacker your only issue there, yeah.
Right. You just have to hope you're a better athlete than him, and then you're kind of off to the races. Obviously that can play out 1,000 different ways, and that's personnelling, right? I mean, that's where we got to see who they really have and what they want to run, how they want to do things.
Well, and you can set this stuff up. Like, you don't have to guess.
Right.
One of the keys here, and this is where I was going to go, if that defensive end is jumping outside and doing that stuff, then this is a great way to get the ball in your. Again, why do we need the variations? A big chunk of it is because we want to get the ball in different players' hands. As I said, we have a very dynamic athlete at quarterback. We want him to carry the football. And quite frankly, we prefer to stack the deck and not just slam our quarterback up in on an inside zone or something. Like let's try to stack the deck and make it a little bit easier for him, make it a little less likely that he gets hit, make it a little more likely he gets an open field where he's really dangerous. Now, you mentioned that guy coming down, crashing down the line of scrimmage. Well, that's where we have another variation. So now we go to pistol. And we run it. We can run it with a tight end as well. Okay, so we can still run this with a tight end. When we get that defensive end who is crashing like a madman, who has been taught to cannonball, cut your kick out guy, which we see a lot of because we run a lot of power. It's not legal, but who cares about legalities anymore, right? So he's coming down and cutting, and he's not in the tackle box. He's out over top of the tight end. So how do we handle that? Well, now the quarterback goes into pistol. There's no counter step. There's no reverse pivot. He opens. He looks at that guy. The H-back whiffs on him. Remember, he wants to cut him. The H-back comes through there like a wrestler protecting his legs. Like, don't let him get your legs. Throw his face down on the ground, whatever, if he comes to cut you. But do it like he just did the greatest wrong arm. So you give a little ground and you whiff on him. And then you go and you block the strong safety. If that guy comes down and the running back runs the power path, he runs it almost like an inside zone path. He hates this play because he knows why we're calling it, and he knows what's about to happen. We're calling it because that guy is crashing down and killing the H-back. So here's what we're going to do, bruh. We're going to read that guy. And instead of him killing the H-back, he's going to kill you.
Yeah.
And you got to just
so
sell it. And then
it
the quarterback watches
like,
him crash down, kill the running back, and goes around him. And now you have the H-back blocking the overhang for you. Everything else is the same.
It almost turns into like a inside zone read, but if you're running split zone, right? Like your H just misses and goes wide, and then because if he still stands up, I mean, are you going to hand it to your guy and let him run the power, or like?
Oh yeah. Because if
you still have that option.
if he steps out, yeah, you run power. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah,
People doing a lot of stuff with H-backs nowadays, especially with RPO games running wild, and you just whiff on that guy, and now it's power pass, right? You just give the read,
right.
he's running down, H is out in the flats, and no one's around, or get him vertical. Like there's a lot of fun stuff people going on with power reads. I saw counter read the other day, like legit GT counter.
Yeah, it's a tough
quarterback
play.
reading it the same hop steps and then pull and go, and a lot of fun stuff going on with that play.
And then counter, the GT counter read that's really tough is reading the backside, because it's really hard if they read the backside guy, and you don't have that extra person there. I've said before, we really have to, because if they will pull the front side linebacker out of there, the end is supposed to chase the puller, and so we both follow the puller the way that it's all designed and lined up. Who do we have puller the way that? Well, it's the weak safety,
right. Who you hope stayed home.
Away. But again, if it's 2x2, he has to beat a block from number 2 receiver, and he doesn't want to go jumping inside too fast. And so then you have your free safety who should be coming downhill and hopefully can fold back. But it's a really hard play if it's done well. And then we have to start playing a cat and mouse game where we're going to tag the defensive end to sit and squat, which we don't like to do. But you got to do it. And we'll do some different blitzes and cover. You can go zero blitzes now, and you can bring the weak safety off the edge and run a smoke weak when you expect that play. But you got to be expecting that play. So you go smoke weak, the free safety goes cover zero on the backside, number 2 receiver, and the smoke weak comes down, and they read the end firing down the line of scrimmage. They read the backer pulling, and the weak safety comes in and hopefully separates the ball or something. So you get into a whole cat and mouse game. It's a really good play. I mean, there's a lot of good plays out there. That's one of them. It's one that gives us a tough time. I say it gives us a tough time on the chalkboard. It does very rarely gives us a tough time on the field because it's a hard play to execute.
Yeah.
And execute well and execute consistently.
Last question here, and I know we're already at an hour, so it doesn't have to be hard, and it shouldn't be. Just how do you get this many sets of rules installed, or do you try to just maintain a set of rules and vary other things? So how do you go about doing that?
All those variations that I talked about in our system, power, even counter, even GT counter, by the way, just changes. All of those change. Power, GT counter, power read, both variations of power read, which, by the way, in our system we call 14 is where the quarterback, 14 read is where the quarterback is running the primary power path and the back is running the outside path. And then 24 is where 24 reads is where the back is running the primary path and the quarterback is pulling and running the outside path. Every single one of those uses the exact same blocking. You got to teach the wrapping guard not to kick out the guy. Understand there's guys not going to be blocked out there. In the case of counter, all it switches All it does is switch the G and the H. So the guard and the H switch responsibilities. In the case of GT, usually we would use the H to kick out the end, or you can read him. And so the H and the tackle switch responsibilities. The guard kicks and the from the counter. That's from a counter standpoint. But the front side of all of those, you mentioned the rules. The front side of all of those is always the same rules, and the rules are, the center's rule is always block back. The center stares at me sometimes, asks me a question. It's very frustrating. What's your rule? This is usually a JV center. What's your rule? What do you mean? But your rule never changes. Never changes. Block back. Well, what if I have, they always want to block the zero tech. Don't do that. You block the first man backside. You block a weak side 1 or a backside 1. You block a backside 2. You block a backside 2I. You block a backside 3. When do I go to the linebacker? You don't. You don't. As they get older, I tell them, if you know that guy's going to disappear, or he's going to get picked up by the hinge, just step and check, and then you can carry on to the back. So like a 33 stack, step and check that 4I that he didn't just all of a sudden decide to come screaming down inside. And then you can go up to the climb to the backer. The backside tackle hinges. So the hinge block is to hop down and replace the feet of the pulling guard. And where people get this wrong is they think that the hinge block is to get the defensive end. It's not. We run the play right, the defensive end should not be an issue. Occasionally he is, and we got to make some adjustments for that, and we will get him. But the first rule of the hinge blocker is to check for the backside linebacker blitzing through B gap or A gap. And what you have to understand on power is that the player that kills power consistently is the backside linebacker. He's the one that's the problem, because you've got everything else handled and he's matching your puller if he's good. And so either he's blitzing through where your puller left. I got the hinge block for that. Or he's going to try to shoot through what we teach, which is shoot through the first open door past the A gap when you see the puller. Well, if I got a 3 tech, then my combo, my inside guy my guard is only looking at him. That's the only thing he comes off, is if somebody comes in that front side A gap. And he doesn't have to come off much, right? He just has to get a piece of the hip, chip him. And then the tight end in that 3 tech scenario, if we have a 3 and a 6, assuming the tight end can get inside of the 6 or a 6I if he's far enough off the ball, the tight end will come down to the A gap area, which is usually the backside linebacker. Could be the Mike linebacker in the 4-3, but it's usually the backside linebacker. So we have 3 guys assigned to the backside linebacker. He's the problem. He's the issue. Not the front side linebacker. Half the time the front side linebacker goes jumping out like this is a sweep play. I don't even know where he's going.
He just sees all those downs and he's like, I'm getting outside them down blocks.
Getting out there. And then the rules on the front side, again, the center's rule is always block back, the tight end tackle hinge. The backside guard is always going to wrap to the front side, to the inside number of the front side linebacker. Those never change. And I like to run power one direction and counter the other direction. And so only half the line has to know all that. I mean, the center hopefully can remember block back, because the center's rules on counter, they have to know all this stuff because the counter rules are the same, but they do, it's a little bit different. So he's the center block back, the guard, the front side tackle, front side tight end. They have to know 3 rules. That's it. And the rules are essentially the actual rules are, if the center is uncovered and the guard is covered. Now, when I teach this, I teach it a little bit different because it's easier to understand. But the technical rule that won't steer you wrong, when we get to things that make it wrong, I just talk to them about it because it's much easier to say it the way I like to say it in practice. But if the center is uncovered and the guard is covered, it's a guard tackle combo on whoever's over top of the guard. If the center is covered and the guard is uncovered, then it is a tackle tight end combo. Because usually, you're going to have a 0 and a 4, or a 0 and a 3I, or a 4I, or something like that. If the is covered and the guard is covered, it's down block. down block, hit everybody in the side of the head, hit everybody in the side of the hip. Your kids, you want the smaller kids that can move and hit everybody in the side, or worse, combo them. And that's so that right there, and then the H-back kick out the guy that's over top of the tight end area. We have one rule on if we have somebody inside of the tight end where he can't get inside of him, which is pretty rare actually, because we're set back off the ball. We can usually rip inside of a 6-eye or 7-tech, or whatever you want to call him. We can usually get inside of him and get through. But if he's closing off that area, first of all, if he's so tight that he's like a 5-tech, we're going to run outside zone. But if he's closing off that area and doing a good job of it, or maybe we're just terrible at outside zone that year, then what we'll do is we'll make a call where we're going to chip him and go. The tight end's going to go over top of him or go outside, and we'll kick him out anyway. That's the rules. So how do we get them to learn all these rules? Well, they don't change. We install them on day 2. Install zone on day 1 because it's the zone count system is our pass protection. But then those are the rules of power. Those are going to be the rules of power when they're middle school. Those are going to be the rules of power when they're on the JV team. Those are going to be the rules of power when they are on the varsity team, their first year, their second year, their third year. And it doesn't matter if we're going to be and again, the pistol power offense is very, very flexible, very, very adaptable. So in one year, we may be a, almost 21 personnel team. And the next year, we may be a heavy 10 personnel team. The rules of power don't change. And in our, we use a numbering system. 4 is power right and 5 is power left. And that's all it means. Doesn't mean anything else. 4 is 4. I have to hammer them on that. Offensive line, especially. 4 is 4. We go 4, or we go 14, or we go 24. What does that mean to you? Nothing. 4 is 4. I don't care what the first number was because I don't care which one of them's getting the ball. I know I got this 50 to 79. It's not me. 4 is 4. We go in there and we go 14 read. What does that mean to you? Well, the only one who has to know that is the backside guard has to know there's going to be a guy standing there and he's not blocked. But again, if he just do his rule, which is wrap to the front side guard and not try to, freelance, not that I wouldn't be mad at him for, kicking the guy on a normal play. That's why he has to know it. But that's the only thing he has to know. That guy's not going to be blocked. There's a read tag. That guy's not going to be blocked. Okay, got it, coach. All right, good. Let's go. And you don't change it. It's like zones. Like, how do they remember all the rules on zone? Well, they count to 3.
And they go play ball.
And then they look covered, uncovered. And we just call it up and down. My guy up, my guy down. My guy's up. I go to the next guy over, and I say, I'm working with you. Cool. Here we go. Like, this isn't hard. If you have a lot of rules and a lot of technicalities and a lot of what ifs, it gets hard. And that makes football kind of suck.
Sweet.
Power.
I think we checked all the boxes on power and things that aren't power. And I found Joe's soft spot about power.
Block back. Not block a 0 with the center.
And I think we should pay the bills again and get out of here. So we're going to talk about join.joedanielfootball.com. Jump over there today, get access for $1, gives you 7 days. I think it's still the thing we're doing there.
Something like that. Depends on when you listen to this. Right now, yes. I don't know. When you listen to this, as of the day that this comes out, I think they can still say that, yeah.
There we go. 4 defensive packages over there: 4-3, 4-2-5, 3-3 stack, and 3-4. All can be ran in one system. If you want to be multi-front, which is something I experienced this past year, you need a 3 front, you need a 4 front. Come on, man. You can pair them all together. The terminology stays the same. You might change a backer's name or something. And your blitz system might look a little bit different, but probably not even that. We also get the pistol power offense, which we've been talking about power all night long, but you don't have to run power out of the PPO. You can run, the gun and run zone read. It doesn't matter. Run whatever you want. It is just a system that lets you show up with an offense that works. Joe already talked about the zone count system and how that plays into the pass protection system. You can run power. You can run counter. You got truck toss. all the passing schemes are there. Whatever it is you're needing to run, you can make your head coach happy. Or if you're the head coach, you can keep your admin happy. You're going to go win games. Chalkboard Forum is open all the time. Jump on there, ask your questions. You'll get answers back. Joe is always going to answer. You'll usually get some other coaches as well, so you get a few views at whatever it is that you're facing. Chalk Talk's bi-weekly right now in the off season. As we get back into the in season, they'll be weekly. A lot of those are come in and ask your questions. A lot of Q&As. So if it's something you're facing that week that you need help with, they're on Mondays or Tuesday nights generally, and you get a chance to game plan your opponent and make sure it's a sound game plan. Come in and let Joe or some of the other coaches give you some answers. Game film analysis is the big that's the thing that you're here for. If you don't need a complete system. And, you're going to send in your game film. Joe or one of his guys are going to break down the film. They're going to hit the low-hanging fruit first. And if you go on and fix that, then you get more advanced stuff. If you go week after week and you won't spread your outside backers out, then you're going to continue hearing the low-hanging fruit. But guys are going to be there to help you get better. What cells are opening and closing, boss?
Don't force with your defensive ends.
I
There's
know.
another one. You want another one? Force with the
Listen,
defensive ends.
I have big arguments in a lot of football circles because I don't trust fat guys with their hand in the dirt to be force. And other people are like, my entire scheme is based on boxing with the defensive end.
That's fine.
That's a whole other podcast.
You're wrong. You're just wrong. That's okay. Everybody's entitled to wrong opinions.
Yeah, it's okay to have an opinion.
People like Daniel have been in the military and have sacrificed for your right to have wrong opinions. And so I support it. Do whatever you want.
Damn right.
At the end of February, we'll be opening up the offensive play caller system, which we talked about a little bit briefly with weaknesses, understanding understanding the areas of the field, how to attack them. We have 4 weaknesses that we look at, and it explains all that to you. It creates play calling and a question and answer type of concept, an if-then scenario. It's very in-depth. It's very much a thought process, mental shift. We do not call offensive plays based on down and distance. So that's a shift for a lot of coaches. So if you're looking at your playbook and you got one and you like it, but you're not sure how to use it all, the offensive play caller system is going to be a massive, massive benefit for you. We've also got some bonus interviews with different coaches talking about things like, we go in depth on things like building your call sheet, using a script, all that's included as well. So that's opening up at the end of February.
Awesome. Last thing here, social media. I am on Twitter/X at Coach Chambo OK. You can also reach out to me by email at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Joe is over on Facebook at Joe Daniel Football. You can find him on Instagram at Joe Daniel Football.
Correct.
And then on Twitter and X at Football Info.
Oh, don't. Nope. Don't leave it out. Don't leave it. I got 25 followers now
on
TikTok.
Oh,
I think it's at Joe Daniel Football on the TikTok.
Is my face on TikTok?
Huh?
I said, is my face on TikTok?
No. Oh yeah. Hold on.
The podcast is on there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they know about you too. They know about you too.
That's good. They already did.
Yep.
The podcast is on Twitter/X at the FBCP, and you're going to see a ton of those, all of our clips for the podcast on all the things Joe's doing. So Instagram, Facebook, and over on TikTok. So if you're just wanting to catch the little clips, stuff you might find more interesting instead of listening to the whole episode, I guess go over there and do that. If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, not on SoundCloud anymore.
Sorry.
Burn.
All 18 of you that were getting it on SoundCloud.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever else besides SoundCloud that you listen to your podcast.
Paying about $1 a month for each one of you. It wasn't fiscally
wasn't worth it. I understand. Been listening for a while. Please leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. That's where like 90% of all podcasters are getting their traffic through Apple Podcasts. So please jump over there. Leave us a 5-star review. If you think that we need to fix something, shoot me an email. And I'll tell you, if it's something we can fix, we'll fix it. If it's just, my face, I'm sorry, I can't do anything for you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. Remember, coach simple, play fast, win.